So who gives a damn about Epstein? I mean, really, who cares? Good morning. It is Thursday, August the 15th, and this is The Drill. Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Ronald T. Hardgrove, and I am the only true conservative in the United States of America today because I'm the only one that makes the presumption for the status quo. My podcast is about demonstrating how to beat the left each and every day. My podcast is made possible by Spreaker.com. It can be heard on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. My email address is storytimes@hotmail.com. I'm on Twitter at Ronald Hardgrove and on Facebook at The Drill. So I started my socio-political odyssey as a conservative Republican, and I identified as a conservative Republican because the left told me so. The left told me that if you have certain positions on certain issues, then you're a conservative. You're a conservative Republican. And so I went ahead and went along with that, like everybody else did, and found, though, that every time I had an argument or disagreement with a liberal, I couldn't win. And I found that very puzzling until I figured out that I was being set up, that the left went ahead and defined what the issues are and defined those issues to aid themselves, to make sure that they win all the arguments. So I was wondering then, is there any way for a conservative to win? And I discovered that yes, you can win by redefining what it means to be a conservative and redefining the issues of true conservatives. And by becoming a true conservative, I not only win, I never lose. And the purpose of my podcast is to demonstrate how to defeat the left each and every day. And as I said in my opening statement, screw Mr. Epstein. Who cares? I'm getting sick and tired everywhere I turn around, it's Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. And it's in the newspapers, on the radio, and it's not just on the radio in terms of the news, but every broadcaster, Hugh Hewitt, from Hugh Hewitt all the way until whoever's last at night, Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, have to comment on Epstein. And not only commenting on Epstein, if he had something to do with the socio-political fabric of this country, I could understand why they would be discussing him. But no, that's not the case at all. He is a profligate playboy. He is a guy that got rich somehow. If you listen to the news, he's a rich guy. How he got rich, well, that's kind of vague and mysterious, but he's a rich guy, billionaire, and all he did with his money was go around and screw 14-year-old girls in his airplane and on some island that he owns out in the Pacific or Atlantic somewhere. And so as far as I'm concerned, Epstein is dead. I don't care how he got dead. I really don't care. They said that he committed suicide. That's good enough for me. But even if he was snuffed out by the CIA or by the Clintons, he's dead. Thank God he's dead. Let him rot in hell. Because as far as for what I can tell from this guy, he wasn't worth the powder it took to blow him apart anyways. Okay? He was a corrupting influence. He was corrupt, and again, a corrupting influence on everybody around him. He was I wouldn't call him bestial, but I'd say that he was absolutely vicious. There's a scale that Aristotle used to describe human behavior that runs from superhuman to bestial. I say bestial for the people that are like mass murderers and serial killers and people of that nature. And since he didn't actually do any of that kind of behavior, I would list Epstein as being vicious. So it goes superhuman, virtuous, continent, incontinent, vicious, and bestial. And vicious means somebody that is chronically, perpetually engaged in acts of vice, in various vices. Somebody that's a chronic gambler. Somebody that's constantly engaged in using prostitutes. Those are people that are vicious. I used to know some vicious people, and vicious, not in other words, not necessarily being violent. But I worked with some people that were vicious. They were constantly engaged in vice. When they weren't doing drugs, they were out consorting with prostitutes. When they weren't consorting with prostitutes, they were engaged in some other type of illegal or immoral activities. And Mr. Epstein falls squarely right in the middle of that description. He's clearly a vicious individual, that he's perpetually engaged in vice, that he thumbed his nose at the criminal justice system in various ways, shapes, or forms. Ding dong, the witch is dead, the wicked witch is dead. I celebrate the fact that he's dead. I'm glad he's dead, and I hope he rots in hell. And that's all we need to know about it. I don't care about any conspiracy theories and about how he got dead. I don't give a damn. Nobody else should give a damn either. He's not worth discussing. So when I come back, I'm going to be talking about Hugh Hewitt and his interview of a Democrat who is running for president. And thank you very much, and welcome back. Hugh Hewitt blew it when he was interviewing a Democrat. Notice that I did not say Democratic congressman. A Democrat congressman who is running for the Democrat Party nomination for president. Mr. Hewitt blew it by interviewing this man in the first place. By interviewing this Democrat, he undermines his credibility as a right-wing talk show host. Nevertheless, Mr. Hewitt was interviewing this congressman about the racism flap and asked the following question. I don't believe that the president is a racist. Do you? Unquote. The congressman responded in a typically mealy-mouthed way, not committing himself one way or another. And this interview question was wrong and stupid. Mr. Hewitt should have told the congressman that the Democrat Party has attempted to defame the President of the United States and then insist that the congressman apologize. And the reason the question that Mr. Hewitt asked was wrong and stupid is that it aids the left. That's right. Mr. Right of Center gives the socialists in this country a victory by honoring their defamation of the president. And their defamation and it's a defamation because it's a unsubstantiated claim. They don't produce any evidence or any proof of their claim. They just assert it. And we're supposed to just take their word for it. And by repeating the claim and responding to this worthless claim, you honor it. And we know with absolute certainty that the president is being defamed by the evidence of our senses. We know that defamation is universally wrong and that the perpetrators, read the Democrats, should be held accountable. By the way, another good question for the congressman would be, do you hate Donald Trump? The left is supposed to be the party of love, right? How many times do you hear from the left, don't hate, don't hate, don't hate? As a matter of fact, I saw a bumper sticker yesterday and the day before on cars, and it reads, resist hatred. So an excellent question for the congressman would be, do you hate Donald Trump? And that'd be an excellent question for any of the lefties in your life. Whenever you hear them talking about hatred, is to stop them and say, excuse me, but do you hate Donald Trump? And watch them choke. Because, of course, they hate Donald Trump. You and they both know the answer to that question. They hate his guts. But, of course, if they're going to be the party of peace and love, they can't admit that. So they're going to have to dance around the question trying to find a way out of that. And most of the useful idiots that call themselves liberals and socialists are unable to do that. So when I come back, another way of I'm going to be demonstrating another way that the conservatives aid and abet the left. Thank you very much. Welcome back. So-called conservatives, I refer to them as reactionary traditionalists, aid and abet the left in other ways as well. One of those ways is by making assumptions, by assuming that the left is acting in good faith. The left uses various slogans to trap the right, and one of those slogans is, I thought you said. For instance, a lefty might ask you whether or not you're pro-life, and you reply that you are. The lefty later discovers that you are pro-military, and the lefty confronts you by saying, I thought you said you were pro-life. Now, if you take Mr. Lefty at face value, you assume that he is genuinely confused about the discrepancy, and you'll attempt to explain. If you explain, you lose. You end up confessing that you're a hypocrite. The right way to handle the situation is to, first of all, realize that the lefty is attempting to manipulate you into making a false confession. In other words, he's not acting in good faith. The next thing to do is to realize how the lefty is manipulating you. In this case, by presenting you with a false dichotomy, an illusory contradiction. So the correct response to the question, "I thought you said you were pro-life," is to ask the question, "So what?" Or you could also say, "And?" And back in a minute with bumper sticker wisdom. Thank you very much. Bumper sticker wisdom. The left loves to express themselves with bumper stickers, and which is a fairly effective way of irritating and annoying people. But the problem with it is that everybody can do it. It's like with the rules for radicals by Saul Alinsky. All those rules for radicals can be used by non-radicals. Non-radicals can use the same tools and techniques and use them against radicals. That's something to keep in mind. So many times I've seen a bumper sticker that pissed me off. And I so badly wanted to deface it, maybe write a counter slogan on it. But by doing so, I run the risk of being engaged in a violent encounter with the owner of said bumper sticker. Now, I also, if I go ahead and I deface the bumper sticker, am violating my own principles in terms of property rights. I know and understand, not believe, but know and understand that we own property, that we have an expectation of privacy, and that we have rights that are associated with the ownership of property, and that basically I'm doing wrong. If I deface somebody else's bumper sticker, I am doing something wrong because it's their property and I have no right to alter it without their permission. So, but I have discovered a great way then to piss off the bumper sticker sporting left without the violent potential and without, more importantly, screwing up my integrity and my credibility. And that is to buy a bumper sticker that expresses a left-wing point of view, deface it, and then put it on my car. This way, I not only get my point across, but I will very possibly even get sympathy from the left in the process. So, in other words, I would get a bumper sticker that says, a Hillary, let's say Hillary Clinton, or how about a Bernie, feel the burn. And then I could put some kind of something mean or nasty underneath it. Bernie Sanders sucks. Let's say I do that, right? So you have the feel the burn bumper sticker. Right underneath it, Bernie Sanders sucks. And then you put that on your car. Now, the way I do it is I put it on a magnet and then put that on the car because I like to switch bumper stickers anyways. Switch them around. Also, if the left decides that they want to try to tear it off my car or something like that, then, or somebody tries to do that, then they can just take the whole thing with the magnet and the whole bit. But anyways, so if I've gone ahead and done that, and I come out of the grocery stores in the parking lot, there may very, very well be a lefty waiting for me to express their condolences. Oh, wow, you support Bernie Sanders, and look, some evil, wicked right-wing troll has defaced your bumper sticker. And then I can just smile and say, thank you very much. Or even, I could say, yeah, I know, I'm the right-wing troll that defaced it. Have a nice day. Back in a minute. Thank you very much. Welcome back. And let me see here. Who are the true conservatives? They are the people that understand that conservatism is not just political, but cultural as well. They're patriotic people who use common sense. They make judgments, refuse to speculate, speak clearly and definitively, and are not afraid to say no. They are open-minded, asking why rather than why not. They are consistent, credible, and influential, not ashamed of their existence. unafraid to learn or correct their mistakes. They are normal Americans. And one last thing about the Epstein situation is that not only is it he's not worth talking about, but the real issue here is why are we talking about it? And this brings me to the issue of one of the reasons that we all, I don't know if anybody else in the country has noticed this, but we all usually end up speaking and talking about things that the left wants us to talk about. We always end up talking about abortion, or we talking about, in this particular case, Epstein, even though there's plenty of other things that are more important. Let's say the border. What's going on at the border right now? Is the wall being built? Is there a lawsuit? Is the lawsuit been resolved? There's all kinds of issues surrounding, say, the border. There's another issues surrounding Supreme Court justices or appellate court judges. And are those people being appointed? Are there openings on the various appellate courts? What's happening with the Ninth Circuit? There was a talk in Congress about breaking up the Ninth Circuit because it's always wrong and getting overturned by the Supreme Court. What's happening with that? That's a much better thing to be talking about than talking about Epstein. So why are we talking about it? Simple. The drill works like this. That, let's say Rush Limbaugh gets up in the morning and the first thing he does is pick up the newspaper. Let's just say it's the New York Times. So he picks up the New York Times and he starts looking through this, particularly for things to talk about on his radio show. Well, the New York Times does have people that go out and go look for stories. A lot of the stories that the New York Times are getting are from what's called wire services. Okay, so that is Reuters is a name of a wire service. There are others, Associated Press, United Press International, for instance. So those are naming but three of, I imagine, many wire services. So it's the wire services that give the news to the newspapers, and bigger newspapers, again, have their own people to go out and also to supplement that news by going out and ginning up, so to speak, additional news articles for the newspaper. But the same thing also then goes with radio and television. Radio and television news are getting a lot of their news from Reuters, UPI, and Associated Press. All of those, Reuters, AP, UPI, are left-wing. So they're always going to present issues that are of value and interest to the left, and they're going to present it, of course, in a left-wing way. So they're going to be the ones that decide what it is that we are going to end up talking about, because they're going to decide what goes into the New York Times. Rush Limbaugh is going to read the Times, and Rush Limbaugh is going to end up going on a show and talking about what it is that Reuters wants him to talk about. And all Rush Limbaugh really needs to do is make a little bit of an effort and find stories that aren't UPI, AP, Reuters, and find issues to talk about that are important to conservatives, true conservatives, and not necessarily, or that should be important to everybody, but that aren't necessarily going to be important to the left. Put conservatism first for a change. But that brings me to the conclusion of another episode of The Drill, and until next time, thank you for listening, and have a great day.